Stat providing some insight into just how Michigan got here. They are a fabulous second-half team. 9 conference games, only outscored their opponents by 37, so about 4 points per game as an average halftime lead. The second half they have won by an average of more than 2 touchdowns per game. As for what's going on here, Gerry and Urban Meyer tackling just that question in this week's Urban Analysis.
Coach, Michigan rushes for 10 yards the first half, 242 yards the second half. Seems like perhaps there were some decisions made at halftime. Yeah. Take us inside locker room at halftime. Are halftime adjustments real or are they overstated?
This is where the value of your assistant coaches is beyond important. So remember, you're on the clock. So the clock the half ends. This is really interesting for the viewer because I've had this question many times. Boom, the clock starts. You have 20 minutes until you're back out. As a head coach, you go in, you go right to the training room. Your strength coach was always right next to me. Right. We go right to the head trainer. What are we dealing with as far as any injuries, any guys that are going to be not ready for the second half? And that depends. Sometimes that takes a couple minutes. So once again, remember the clock's in the locker room.
Yep.
I remember just always staring at the clock, and I'd talk to the trainer. And then you go to offense or defense. I would always get a stat sheet, and I'd stare at it as I'm walking to. If one side of the ball is really struggling, you go to them first. Say, how can we help? Let's all work together on this. And the best coordinators I've had, the Kyle Whittingham, the head coach of Utah, and Luke Fickle, I've had some really good coordinators on defense. I'd walk in there and already be on the board. Here's the issues, here's our plan, and let's talk through it. Right. I would give a little, maybe I'd give a comment or two, but normally not. I'd listen, and then we'd go. And then I'd go to offense. I was an offensive coach, so I'd go in there, and on the left side of the board was your run game. What happened, what was good, and then what we're going to do. On the right side was the pass game. Right. The bottom right was always third downs and red zone. So you'd come in, and once again, when I had excellent coordinators, you come in there and you're like, boom, 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 and I could tell if there's a problem. You come in there and all of a sudden it's not, you can tell, which happens. You face a team that's kicking your tail a little bit, then that takes time. But once again, right above that board, what is that clock?
Right.
The clock doesn't stop. You can't say, hey, slow that clock down. It's going, Gerry. So you go training room, offense, defense, and you have to let the coaches be out there by 10 minutes. So that means 10 minutes, the players have 10 minutes to take care of themselves, to get cleaned up, to get a rinse, to get something to eat, whatever it is. And then they're with their coaches for 10 minutes till about 6.5 minutes. So that's about 4, maybe 5 minutes they're spending with them. Then I call them up, I talk to the team. You have to get them back on the field with about 3 minutes so they can stretch, throw the ball a little bit. And it's got to be a very organized, it's organized chaos. Once again, the value of your assistant coaches for halftime adjustments, it's a premium. I've had great coaches, and then I've had good coaches. The great coaches, you walk in there and it's like an boom, boom, boom. Here's our plan. Here's what happened. Here's our plan. They look at me. We talk about it. Boom, go to the next side of the ball. And you got to give credit where credit's due. Whatever was said, whatever halftime adjustments, I've had people say, are they real? Absolutely, they're real. Look at the stats.
Here's Edwards with a lay. Donovan Edwards. Whoa! Can they catch him? No! Touchdown, Michigan, the Don! What a second half. Wow.
The committee ranked Michigan 2 this week. They beat number 3. The committee says that they look at things every week, starting all over again. Michigan was ranked 3 and beat 2. I believe they should be number 1. What do you believe?
I do too. I think, once again, the committee's responsibility, from what I understand, is it's a week-to-week evaluation. The body work's important, but that week, what the Wolverines did, they went into a hostile, something that hasn't been done, I want to say, since 2000. They beat them by 3 scores. One of the top 2 most talented teams in America. Offense, defense were on point. The offense line controlled the game, the defense line controlled the game. I don't think, and I saw Georgia, haven't studied Georgia as much as I've studied the Wolverines and Ohio State, obviously, but from last week, the Wolverines should be number 1.
The fact that they played in the shoe, which I've coached in the Big Ten and the SEC, as you have, to me, Ohio State Stadium is much like the great stadiums in the SEC.
Oh, sure.
But I don't think the committee feels that way. I think the committee has this mindset that if you win a game in a hostile SEC stadium, it's better than winning a game in Ohio Stadium when you're Michigan.
Well, there's certainly SEC bias. I want to say there's been at least 6, maybe 7 SEC teams who won a national title in recent history. The Big Ten has had 1. So there is some bias there. However, you got to clear your mind. You got to watch the videotape, look at the body of work that week. That week, to me, in my opinion, what the Wolverines did was deserving to be the #1 team in America.
Yeah, there's no better win in college football this year than the #3 team beating the #2 team.
By 3 scores.
Yeah, that's by 3 scores.
Yeah.
There's no better win.